Emma Peel has made an apparent ally with the village vicar, and the following scene, I think, needs to be seen in order to illustrate just why she is such a great character. They didn't write her as they didn't feel the need to write her as either a feminist or a damsel in distress. She's just a character who happens to be a woman, who has the same ups and downs as Steed in going from confidence to trusting wrong people to yet the only reason she's any weaker than Steed, according to the show, is that she has any weaknesses is that she's an amateur and Steed is a trained spy who it's suggested may have been doing this work since World War II. And this is 65, so over 20 years experience on Steed's part, gifted amateur scientist / magazine article writer on the other. Emma Peel doesn't do too bad for herself. When she's checking the parish records and the photo with the Newtown vicar, who seems to be on her side, well, this is what happens.
Now, Mr. Amesbury, you wouldn't use that, would you? Not during choir practice.
A very appropriate piece of music, Mrs. Peel. It's a requiem.
As you can see, she uses her brains to get out of to try and get out of the situation. Then, when they seem to have outsmarted her, she's able to fight off her attacker, and then it's only once they outnumber her and have 3 guns pointing at her that she gives up. This would have been written no different than if a male character had been Steed's sidekick. The only difference is Diana Rigg brings such class and charm to the scene that it is just irresistible, and what would be a boring scene of one of the heroes getting caught. I mean, just look at the look on her face at the end of the scene. Go back, pause it, look at it. She even takes that in stride. Well, once Steed can't find Emma Peel, he's had just about enough. He goes to the innkeeper trying to find out what happened to her. The innkeeper just says that she just left. Steed, of course, knows that this is a lie, not just because they're partners, but because he stupidly left her luggage sitting out in the open with her initials on it. And this is another aspect of Steed's character that plays well, that Patrick McD plays perfectly. He's able to do the banter. He's able to do. But when it's called for, he can also be the tough guy without going over the top in a Jack Bauer, James Bond way. His character has a whole different take on it. I mean, just look at this. He does the most terrifying thing imaginable to get information out of the innkeeper. He threatens to burn his mustache. No, really, that's what he does. Just watch.
Well, you never know your luck, do you, Piggy? You don't mind me calling you Piggy, do you? It seems to suit you so well. What? You're expendable, Piggy. You're dead, remember? Killed in action, 1942. Where is she, Piggy? Where is she?
as you can see, that got some results. He then proceeds to break into the blacksmith shop, has a fight with the blacksmith, and then frees the tied up Emma Peel. They then dash over to the school to find it completely deserted, but they find a huge supply of food. And that is when we are filled in on the plot. And this is where the Avengers succeed, whereas so many other shows from this period, with their slower pace that took themselves seriously, fall apart. The banter between Diana Rigg and Patrick McNee, Steed and Peel, as they outline this fairly outrageous plot where we don't even know who is the villain. They're never named. Like most 60s shows, they didn't want to risk offending the Russians. So even though it's presumed to be the Russians, and the Russians are the only people who would do this, they always talk about the other side, or they're invading the nation. They never actually say who they are, or who the other side is. So they outline the plot.
Concentrate. What do you make of this?
Little Baisley?
And this?
A submarine.
A submarine moored offshore. To what purpose?
Disembark people. Small batches of them, say a dozen at a time.
Why? If you wanted to take over an entire country, how would you go about it?
Launch a full-scale invasion.
And risk a full-scale reprisal.
Don't let them know you're doing it.
Take it over piecemeal.
Bit by bit.
How?
Wipe out the old population and replace them with your own kind.
The vicar? The schoolmaster?
The butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker, all imposters.
But if someone were to arrive in the village, someone who could point the difference.
Like Smallwood, he disappears too. Now, strangers they allow in and out to get rid of the whole lot would arouse suspicion.
So an entire village is taken over. What then?
The next town, and then the next, and the next, and the next, and finally... I went round the whole of this place, and there were just empty buildings.
Below. That's what he meant by below. Mark Brandon, just before he died, kept saying below.
This airport was built during the war.
So there must be bunkers. Underground shelters.
And that's it. If you're willing to accept the fact that the Avengers has somewhat ridiculous plots by the point that wouldn't hold up very well as actual plans, then this is the show for you. If not, it's not. But I'm willing to. So they then find that the school has a secret entrance going down to a bunker where a whole army is being unloaded. However, there is a heavy metal door that separates the basement of the school from where the army is being prepared. They figure if they jam it, they can save the day. Emma Peel but before they can jam the door and just wait for the army to show up and sort this whole mess out, Emma Peel is cornered by the vicar, the schoolmaster, and the headmistress, all armed with guns. She and Steed show why they're such a great team by immediately piling into them. However, Steed ends up on the wrong side of the door with it being closed on him, and Emma Peel ends up on the other side where the switch is that can open the door. Now, Steed is surrounded by at least half a dozen soldiers armed with rifles, and Emma Peel is surrounded by two men larger than her, and a woman who seems to be almost her equal in fighting all armed with guns. She proceeds to disarm them, and then very quickly races, opens the door, and, well, I'll just let what she finds speak for itself. And that is why John Steed is one of the coolest characters in television history. He doesn't have as with most shows back then, they didn't have actual karate experts or any martial artists on set doing it, and they used stunt doubles sometimes, but a lot of times it was the actual actors pushing and shoving. But they make their way around it by having him do things like that. By the way, in case you're wondering, it was revealed earlier that his bowler hat has some sort of metal plate in it underneath its lining all through it. So that's what that sound was. So then as they hear an army approaching, they shut the door, jam up the mechanism, and presumably call in the army. And then we get another example of the Avengers formula, which is to always have a tag scene where they seem to be flirting, and yeah, they are definitely. And take a look at this and tell me if they're not skirting the lines of what the television censors would allow them to put on.
Now, for a long, leisurely dinner in a cozy little inn where the claret wines are heavy and the steak is this thick. Ooh.
You concentrate on the driving. I'll tell you what I have in mind.
Yeah. So, that was Town of No Return. Town of No Return, while being a little lighter on plot than some later episodes, is nevertheless a good introduction to Emma Peel, despite the fact that we don't get a backstory on her. We learn in very quick succession that she is a scientist, she is a writer, she can hold her own in any fight, and she is smart, and she's smart, and she has a completely different dynamic than Kathy Gale, one that will stay with the series, that will take the series to its most popular heights, as the two are the perfect comrades in arms, and maybe more, and not just people, and not just working together begrudgingly. It has everything an Avengers episode should have. A slightly ridiculous plot, a decent mystery, lots of atmosphere, and lots of witty dialogue, and surprisingly for people who were working together for the very first time, pitch perfect performances from McNee and Diana Rigg. And of course, it has another key element that was becoming more important to the Avengers, them always running into characters just as eccentric as themselves in their investigations. All in all, a very good solid start to the Emma Peel years. So I am giving it a final score of 8 out of 10. If you like this type of sci-fi, or you liked any of the clips of Steed and Peel working together. It's just a very good episode, and it's hard to imagine, and no, it's actually impossible to imagine that they had cast another actress in the role of Emma Peel, because Diana Rigg is just amazing in it. And they are the gold standard. Every time I see a couple of stars on television, Patrick Dea, Diana Rigg are the gold standard that I measure them by. And so far, while some have come close, no other couple of television has matched them, let alone surpassed them. So, if you can get over the issues of pacing at black and white, well, you're going to have a great time. So, I hope you found this a helpful introduction to one of the greatest shows in TV history. And if you've never seen it before, and I hope that you will give it a try. Well, till next time, I'm going to try to get and emphasis on try, but I'm going to try to get these out every week instead of every 2 weeks. So check in next week to see what I'll be reviewing then.